Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's Monday, October the 23rd, 7 p.m. It's a regular meeting of the Wayne Westland Community Schools Board of Education, and we are going to begin our meeting this evening with a Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, led by David Holmes, Josh Reynolds, and Jasmine Drew of Edison Elementary School.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Wow, great job. I think their principal, Bennett Tyler, Mr. Tyler?
No, that's on.
Could you tell us something about these young people?
Sure, thanks so much. So, I've got Josh Reynolds, who's a fifth grader here at Edison. He's 10 years old and he's in the Hewers class. Josh has attended Edison since third grade. He lives with his mom, dad, and brother. He said his favorite part about going to Edison is the late start time of 9 a.m. I did warn him that it's going to change next year in middle school. In his free time, Josh enjoys playing video games, drawing, reading fiction books, and free writing. And when he grows up, he hopes to be a graphic designer or film and video editor.
Stand up there.
Good job.
We can stand right next to you, actually.
Oh, you want to talk here? All right, next I've got Jasmine Drew, also a fifth grade student here at Edison. Want to stand up? She's 10 years old and she's in Mrs. Brake's class. Jasmine has always gone to Edison. She lives with her mom and brother. Her favorite thing about Edison are the teachers. And in her free time, Jasmine enjoys gaming and baking. And when she grows up, she wants to be a teacher. And last but not least, David Holmes, also a fifth grade student at Edison, also 10 years old. He's in Mrs. Brown's class. David has attended Edison since kindergarten. He lives with his mom, dad, and little brother and sister. His favorite part about Edison is the new playground and the new gym. His hobbies include video games and sports, football being his favorite. When he grows up, he hopes to be a YouTuber.
Mr. Tyler, would like to get a picture? Thank you. Before I get the picture, if they could continue to stand there, we're going to get the picture. Also, we'd like to acknowledge their parents who have come here tonight to support the kids. Thank you very much. And don't feel like you have to stay. We know you probably have homework. Thank you. Next item on our agenda, 155.24, is the roll call attendance. Ms. Hines?
Do you guys have a sheet for the roll call? Because it wasn't in the packet. Thank you. Easy to keep track, but I'll do this over right now.
All right, you run a tight ship, I know. Madam Secretary?
Thank you so much. We have Mr. Neal.
Here.
Dr. Weaver.
Here.
Mr. Albrecht.
I'm here.
Miss Abney Mitchell. Here. Ms. Hines here. Ms. May,
Will not be here tonight.
absent, and President Cox.
I'm here.
Okay, we're 6-0.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. 156.24 is recognitions and presentations. Dr. Dignan?
Thank you, Mr. Cox and board. Good evening, community. It's with great pleasure that I introduce the Adams New Middle School principal, who's kind of going to give a snapshot of the school, Mr. Kip O'Leary.
Mr. O'Leary, welcome.
I promised them I will do my best to keep it 7 minutes, so I'm gonna, let's see where the clicker is. As we're getting started, what I did is I worked with the school improvement team to start being brand new, getting some feedback from them, which was great. It kind of helped get me up to speed as well. So we're going to go through this rather quickly, but hopefully thoroughly as well. So what do we value? Teaming together for a common goal. All students will achieve and be successful. Research-based best practices are implemented for Tier 1 instructions for all students with the goal to reduce students transitioning to Tier 2 and 3. Work collectively with community organizations, internal supports, and families to create strong and committed partnerships. Down the road, we'd like to establish an Adams Parent Advisory Council to kind of elicit more feedback from parents. Provide impactful opportunities for all to cultivate lifelong learning. Another strong one for me personally, grit and hard work can overcome any obstacle. We also believe firmly that a whole child approach focusing on academic and social emotional supports, positive relationships, and the development of successful habits, skills, knowledge, and experiences, the whole child mindset will be at the core of everything we do at Adams Middle School. Adams Middle School will be, again, this is kind of a personal one for me, and Adams Middle School will be a place every single person looks forward to attending each day because they'll be cared for. They will work hard, they'll work together, and strive to be better than the day before. And kind of a quote many of us have seen, but is pretty dear to me. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And how we treat one another is of paramount importance to myself and the staff at Adams. The middle school math goal. So kind of going through some of the goals from our school improvement team. Students will complete a pre and post assessment each quarter. Data dialogues will be held during content meetings to establish interventions for reteaching and extended learning opportunities for students who have met the standard. For the ELA goal, all students will participate in SSR on a daily basis, and they'll reflect and record their progress in a metacognitive log, kind of a self-reflection log on how they're learning. For the middle school social studies, intentional standards, align instruction and disciplinary reading. Each teacher will have students utilize at least 2 summarizing strategies per marking period to help students record and organize important ideas and facts from a variety of sources. For the science goal, all teachers will provide evidence of intentional efforts to build age-appropriate scientific vocabulary and conceptual knowledge as measured by classroom observations, formative and summative assessments, and PLC data conversations. Fine arts goal, the team will implement disciplinary literacy essential number 7, intentional efforts to build vocabulary and conceptual knowledge. We will do this by implementing the Frere model of vocabulary acquisition once a month in our classrooms, as well as using content-specific vocabulary for the language goals, world language. Create additional opportunities for speaking and listening at least once a week through the use of essential questions and conversation corners. This will be an extension of our thematic instruction. SEL goal, which is an important one and kind of near and dear to myself. This is where relationship building, which is critical. To increase a sense of belonging in school community throughout the school year, for the 23-24 school year, teachers will incorporate second step lessons on a weekly basis to encourage community, team building, collaboration, and a sense of respect. Second hour teachers will post a pre and post student perception survey in their Google Classroom. We will partner with Wayne Youth Services, Westland Youth Assistance, Concentric, and establish support interventions and wraparound services to mitigate truancy. We will recognize perfect attendance and the positives with weekly and monthly recognitions, Friday Plinko, Pizza with Principal, monthly certificates, and monthly and yearly drawings. Our counseling department is very engaged in what we do throughout the building. They work closely and they also communicate with the students about FRC, Corewell Health, Care Solace, and we also have Miss Bukowski over here, my assistant, who's over there. She established a new Adams Student Hub this year, which I'll show you on the next page. Students also have the 988 on their student ID for support. Counseling Google Classrooms, Suicide Prevention Week participation, Zello Educational Development Plans for college and career planning, and Career Tech Visit that we just completed today. So I know it's hard to see, but so on the left-hand side, this is what the students see when they log into their Chromebook. So it's multiple resources and ways to communicate with us at school. Also, each of the counselors have their own Google Classroom, so that way students are up to date on what we're doing here in the school, and they have resources available to them immediately. Some of the points of pride, building district-wide PLCs, small group instruction. We have quite a few of those examples in the s'mores. For formative and common assessments and truancy intervention supports, math and ELA foundation classes for Tier 1 and 2 supports, which are linked to NWA data and aligns the Read and Math 180 curriculum, smaller class sizes, research-based interventions. The new STEM class that focuses on student projects and promotes science, engineering, and computer coding. The drone engineering program that we just got, That is funded by a grant from the Wayne RESA and Square One Educational Network. Student participation in a STEM Discovery event located at Lawrence Tech University. Digital Diva. Participation in Mr. October STEM program. SNAP's Peer-to-Peer Inclusion Program. So this is just kind of an overview of the Math 180 and the pillars of reading for the Read 180. The essential part for the Math 180 is at the bottom. You can see where it says raising achievement scores by an average of 2+ years in 1 school year. So it's a program that guarantees results. And then the pillars of the reading program for the Read 180 is phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. Here are some examples. It's hard to see from here, but these are some examples of how teachers are creating the small groups using the math in the Read 180. These are more examples of our students participating in those activities. It's great to see lots of a lot of pictures, but we try to get quite a few of those in the SMORE each week. This is our trip to Tiger Stadium last year. Also, another point of pride is Michigan History Day state finals in the spring of '23. Teachers Carl Lowe and Lynn D'Angelo. I'll summarize this. They basically work on a National History Day project. It's a state level and it's also national level. So these were our award winners from last year. It's great to get that recognition on a national level. Here's just some examples of what we've in our art classes. These are both ones that are collaborative art, so students are working together with one another. Our band program, the goal of the music program is to be recognized in the state and region as producing diligent and talented students, musicians who have a lifelong passion for music. We have over 50 students in that program. Some other school-wide PBIS, positive behavior intervention supports, weekly behavior team meetings. We meet every week to go over truancy concerns and interventions, students' needs and supports and recognitions for positive behavior. Weekly and monthly PBIS positive attendance rewards, hat day, movie day, popcorn day, lunchtime gym use, certificate of recognition, PBIS school store. Again, we meet every week to go through the student data to analyze students that may need additional supports. Alternatives to suspension, one thing we definitely feel strongly about is trying to come up with other means besides suspension. So we have these, we have the NEST, check in, check out. Basically the NEST is where students can go to kind of regroup, take a break. Sometimes maybe the adults need to go to the NEST. Check in, check out with an adult mentor, counseling services, Wayne Youth Services, Care Solace, Family Resource Center, Wayne Youth Assistance, Corewell Health, Blessings in a Backpack, and Mr. Hall also does quite a few awards. Over 50 students receive an award throughout the year. Here's an example of students at the Michigan Construction Day Career Days. I believe strongly in some of those trades and career program opportunities beyond college. More of our awards for perfect attendance. These are the clubs we have: drama, yearbook, student council, National Junior Honor Society, school newspaper, pep club, science club, math Olympics, National History Day, bowling club, and golf club. The nice thing, and I've been in a lot of school districts that's unique, I think, here with Wayne Westland and Adams, is all of those members that sponsor those clubs are teachers. And sometimes that's really difficult to get in a lot of schools, so that's really impactful. There's a picture of our pep club, drama club, students receiving awards at the city council last year. Here's our sports: soccer, volleyball, cross country, girls basketball, wrestling, competitive cheer, swimming, soccer, and then track in the spring. Boys made it to the finals this year for the first time in a long time for soccer, so that was great. One of the neat stories from cross country is Mr. Hall was talking about how a couple of students at the end were just finishing the race. The kids and a bunch of kids went and kind of held their hands and brought them across the finish line. So that was kind of cool. That's really the crux of what we want to do. Ms. Bukowski and I try to spend a lot of time also doing staff appreciation. So monthly we do a food cart, feed the staff, make them happy. We also have a recognition board, so that way we can have shout outs for the staff. And something that's personal to me, it's not always just what we do, it's how we do it. Sometimes it takes only one act of kindness and caring to change a person's life. Had some attendance meetings last week. Parent came in, instead of sitting across from them at a table, just sat next to that parent in a chair. Just had a real person-to-person conversation, and it was a resource issue. That's why they couldn't get their child to school. Went down to FRC. The mother was super grateful. Just that little act of kindness hopefully went a long way. And I believe I'm supposed to ask if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Mr. O'Leary. Questions, anyone?
Thanks, Mr. O'Leary and Ms. Bukowski. Thank you. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. I'm gonna call up Miss Swanson, who's gonna pinch hit tonight for Miss Michaels. This presentation's on Hamilton Elementary School. So
Thank
Miss
you.
Swanson.
Yes, at Hamilton Elementary, where we choose to be the star we are. There we go. All right, so we currently have 21 general ed classrooms from young 5s through 5th grade. We also are one of the multilingual hubs, so we have a multilingual language teacher 3 days a week and the paraprofessional ML teacher or ML para 2 days a week, full-time social worker, 2.5 resource teachers, 1.5 speech pathologists, and then all of the other ancillary supports. We choose to spend a lot of our title budget on people. We're very proud to be able to have 2 Title I paraprofessionals and a highly qualified student interventionist. She's actually a certified teacher to be able to support our MTSS and all of our students. We have approximately 470 students right now. 17% of those students do receive some sort of special education service. We are just under 50% African American, with 35.3% African or Caucasian was half, 35.3% African American, 7.2 Hispanic, and multi-ethnic, with a dash of 0.8% Asian, Middle Eastern, and some Native American. Our vision statement, as I said, at Hamilton, we choose to be the star we are. So our vision is that each student will have a thriving future built on academic success, personal responsibility, and discipline. And that our mission is to promote teamwork, leadership, and personal growth through academic success. As you may know, the district has focuses in curriculum, SEL, and CCR. And so we take the district focus of in curriculum that teachers will provide evidence of competency in implementing the literacy essentials. And at Hamilton, our focus is implementing those literacy essentials, especially focus number 8, with that abundant reading material within the classrooms and the school libraries. We had a couple of library clerks come over and support our library clerk with going through the library this right before school started, reading the collection, making sure that we have a nice robust set of texts for students that are both high interest as well as support the curriculum. And then again, we put title funds into adding to classroom libraries and purchasing books that can go home with families to build their home libraries. In addition to that, we make sure we have lots of reading opportunities, both star readers that come into the classroom, older kids that will read to younger students. I record stories 3 days a week that are posted on our social media sites, as well as there's a story per week that they show on the announcements that goes along with our PBIS theme for the month. With our CCR, or College and Career Readiness, as a district, we are looking to help students to participate in learning experiences and activities that increase their awareness about those post-secondary experiences. So at Hamilton, we provide those opportunities to explore different careers through both virtual learning, field trips, and guest speakers. Just last week, we had a variety of speakers in, and we'll see a couple pictures in a minute, but we had a welder, we had policemen, we had the fire department, we had Bella the arson dog. One of those opportunities is Science Alive, and William and Terry came in to not only show the animals to students, but also talk about being a biologist, the type of schooling you would need, and the opportunities that you have as a different type of biologist. As I said, different guest speakers, and all of those just were last week. We've also had an author come in already. We had the Ned Show, which talked about growth mindset, and many more that are scheduled. And our social emotional learning, as a district, we are looking to develop and implement attendance monitoring systems because we can't learn if we're not sitting in school. And so as a building, we are supporting that social emotional learning through relationship building and connections with community resources. All teachers made contact with all students and families by the 1st of October. We do community circles at least monthly. Almost all of our teachers do them at least weekly. We have a lot of Care Solace referrals. Our social worker actually received a national award from Care Solace for her dedication to supporting families with getting connected to mental health resources. We have a variety of recess games that help students be able to practice taking turns and playing and communicating with one another. We also, young 5s through 5th grade have implemented our zones of regulation. Our young 5s in kindergarten had done that the last couple of years, just where our zones of regulation help kids to have both a visual and key terms to be able to think of where are they themselves, how are they feeling, how is their engine running, and then how they can support themselves with moving from one zone back into the green. We promote positive attendance through attendance awards. During the month of September, we had 144 of our 470 kiddos that had perfect attendance. That means they got there on time and stayed bell to bell. And we have an average daily attendance of 92%. We celebrate those kiddos at our monthly PBIS and awards assemblies. They get certificates, they get charms to go on their Friday Fun necklaces, and lots of hoopla and everything. All of their pictures are put on Dojo and our social media. Our communication alignment, we want to make sure that families feel connected and that we are making sure to communicate out to them everything that we are doing in the classroom and across the district. So we do a weekly s'more. We do lots of communication through Dojo, promoting both activities that the kids are participating in, speakers that have come in, upcoming events, as well as curriculum updates. And then some of our points of pride. We have that fully integrated school-wide PBIS program. We do have a food and personal hygiene and clothing pantry available for all of our families. We have coordinated with both staff within the building as well as community sponsors to be able to sponsor at least 20 families at Christmas. We have an active student council, which is made up of our 3rd and 4th graders. Over 80 students participate in our service and safety squad, mostly 5th graders with some 3rd and 4th grade support. And then we make sure to allocate funds for sensory and movement room. We make sure that our Title I student interventionists are supporting that bottom 15% of our students. We have a little Red Wagon lending library where kiddos can take a book, leave a book, so that they always have opportunities, not only with the book they check out from the library each week, but additional text to be able to build their learning libraries. We have daily video announcements and a newspaper that is created and entirely run by our kiddos. So these are just a couple of pictures of fun things that we've had. We've had a WWE wrestler in to talk to us. And then with our Ned Show speaker last week, he actually is also a published author of mid-elementary novels. So we've already snagged him to come back in February and talk to our students. And then our amazing Star Hamilton staff. Any questions?
Questions, members of the board? No. Thank you very much for filling in. No one would know.
Ms. Swanson, great job. Thank you. Next, Ms. Polakevich is going to go over the continuity of service plan review, so I'll turn it over.
Good evening, President Cox and the Board of Education. I know that I've done this a few times, and you know the drill. Every 6 months, we need to review our COVID learning plan and continuity of services because of our ESSER funds. Instead of going through the plan, most of it, when I reviewed it, it's exactly the same. So I did include the plan in your packets that you should have gotten. And maybe. Is there a trick, Miss Swanson? Thank you. So just a reminder of our ESSER requirements. We have to review our extended COVID learning plan that was adopted in August of 2020. Determine if modifications are needed. Again, I reviewed it. There were no modifications needed. And then we also need to review our continuity of services plan that was adopted in February of 2022. So if anyone from the public has any input on any of the changes that we have, or we haven't made any changes, you can feel free to do so at public comment. But just to review, we had no major changes in either plan. So I just wanted to share with you a few of our ESSER 3 projects. As we know, ESSER 3 comes to a close in September of 2024. So this is our last year of a school year that we'll be able to kind of put some of these into place. So we did purchase literacy task force materials for K-5 staff through ESSER. So that is a big push that we are making district-wide. Center-based instruction, professional learning for our middle school staff. We are purchasing up some band instruments for our middle and high school staff, so kind of putting into that program. We have paid for our summer programming for the past few years and will continue next year. We have some building and grounds improvements, HVAC generators, playground updates, some technology updates, and we've also included some intervention programs for students, Amira, Read and Math 180, and so forth. So our long-term planning, as we really sat down and looked this year, we wanted to make sure that we're looking and using our ESSER 3 projects for some one-time costs, such as our middle school professional learning. We're doing a lot of job-embedded coaching so that we can continue the process in all 3 of our middle schools moving forward. We're training staff, front-loading needs for future years, and then, like I said, purchasing some one-time use playground equipment that we'll use for many years. So kind of also along with our ESSER funds, we do have another grant that we are going to submit our intention to apply. And much like our ESSER grant, we have some requirements about presenting to the board about what, and the community, about what we are going to use these funds for. So this grant is the Michigan Kids Back on Track, or 23G. They are additional state funds. It will be a minimum of $300 a student to help districts promote programming for our most at-risk students. Depending on how many districts apply for this money, it could go up based on how much is remaining in that pot. It will be formulated based on students who are not proficient in ELA and or math, based on our state assessments in grades 3, 8, and 11, which are our benchmarking assessments. We can use the funds for the following areas: addressing unfinished learning, getting students to grade level, academic standards, providing additional academics assistance of students at risk of failing, and to help high school students prepare for post-secondary education. So our plan is to use these funds for our summer programming, for tutoring, and for some post-secondary education planning with our CCR department. Once we know exactly how much we're getting, we can come back and give you a more specific plan of what those funds are, but we did want to let you know that we are applying for this upcoming grant for our students and for our district. That's all I have.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
It gets better every time you do it.
I try to make it a little shorter every time.
Questions, members of the board?
Or it's only 2 more times, so at least for this, then you'll hear me again about 23G, but at least it'll be a little bit new.
Thanks, Ms.
Well, we'll be looking
Paul-Savage.
forward to it. Thank you.
I would like to call up Stacy Maisho from Plant Moran. She's going to go over the annual audit.
All right. Make sure yep, okay. All right, thank you, Dr. Dignan. So, as you said, my name is Stacy Michaud. I am with Plant Moran, and I am the manager on the audit engagement. So I will be covering this presentation fairly high level, just to give you a sense of how the audit went, the results of the audit, and then I will also dive into more of the financial information as well. So I would like to start by thanking the business office for all of their time and efforts that went into this. I think this year, we had a very successful audit and issued in record time as well. So we appreciate the continued partnership with Wayne Westland. So as we issue our audit, there's a few deliverables that we usually include. That includes the audited financial statements of the district. There is also a single audit or federal programs report. And then there's also a required post-audit communication with the board. Oh, whoops, sorry. So looking at the items on the screen here, starting with the basic financial statement audit, you can see that we did issue an unmodified opinion or a clean audit opinion. We performed the audit primarily on site, and there were no findings reported as part of this audit. The federal programs audit that you see here, so this is required for all districts who have $750,000 or more in federal expenditures in a given fiscal year. So Wayne Westland did exceed that, and as part of our testing for major programs, we tested the Special Education Cluster, or IDEA, the Emergency Connectivity Fund, or ECF, and the Education Stabilization Fund. So that would include your ESSER funds. For all of these programs tested, we issued an unmodified opinion, and there were no findings reported. Also, as part of the financial statement audit, we do perform bond and sinking fund compliance testing. So this is where we look at the spending of those funds, and we can also say that we found no findings. Okay, so the graphics that you see here will be primarily focused on the district's most significant fund, which is the general fund. So starting with assets and liabilities, you can see that total assets of the general fund were about $37.6 million as of June 30th. This was made up of about $15 million or 40% of cash and investments, about $22.5 million or 60% of receivables. So this would include July and August state aid receivables as well as property tax receivables. And then the small sliver that you see, that is about $107,000 of other assets consisting of inventory and prepaid expenses. Moving to the liabilities, you can see that those are about $28.3 million as of June 30th. This consisted of accounts payable due to other funds and accrued payroll. So as you can see in that pie chart, accrued payroll is the largest liability for the district, and it was about $16.3 million or 57% at year end. So this accrual is made up of 26 paid teachers. So that includes their salaries and wages, related benefits, as well as retirement expenses. And then the last portion of total liabilities there is due to other funds for various purposes, and that was about $11.5 million. All right, the next slide looks at total revenue and other financing sources. So as you can see from fiscal year 22 to fiscal year 23, revenue increased about $18.2 million or 15.5%. Diving into what that is made up of, you can see we have local sources, so that totals about $21.1 million. That's made up of property taxes totaling about $17.4 million, as well as vocational education revenue, about $2 million. The largest component that you see is state sources, so that includes state aid of about 103.8 million. Federal dollars here, so this won't be all of the federal dollars that the district receives, but this is the portion that's allocated to the general fund. So this portion is Medicaid, which totals about $80,000. Interdistrict revenue includes your Act 18 funds, as well as the enhancement millage. It's about 7.5 million. And then the last piece at about 1.8 million is transfers, as well as other financing sources, which would include the sale of capital assets, proceeds from that sale of $587,000. Okay. So, actually, I think I need to go back a slide. Okay, so most of the balances here are consistent with prior year, with the exception of the state revenue there. So that the state revenue increased about 16.4 million from fiscal year 22. And most of that fluctuation in the state revenue was due to increased funding of 51A. That was about $4 million over fiscal year 22. There's also an increase in the foundation allowance, which resulted in approximately 2.3 million additional in revenue. And then the most significant increase in the general fund state source revenue is from the one-time deposit of 147C2 funds, which were used to fund the retirement liability. And that portion of revenue was about 8.4 million. All right, moving into total expenditures and other financing uses. So total expenses for the district and the general fund were about 152.7 million, which is an increase of about 36 million or 31.1%. So in this graphic, you can see the breakout between the function codes. So this would be instruction, support services, athletics, community services, transfers, and capital outlay. Despite the total increase that you see, the overall percent allocation has remained relatively consistent from fiscal year 22 to fiscal year 23. This data also shows us that the most significant expense categories for the district are instruction and support. Both of these have increased significantly from fiscal year 22, with minimal increases in the other functions. General fund capital outlay, just to highlight too, also increased about $351,000. All right, so this slide will also take a look at expenditures, but from a slightly different angle. So as I mentioned, the most significant expenses for the district are instruction and support, which you can also see here is made up of salaries and fringe benefits. So this does demonstrate that the most significant portion of the district's expenditures are about 86% in fiscal year 23 and 88% in fiscal year 22 related to those salaries and fringe benefits. Looking at fund balance for the general fund, you can see the trend here over the last 5 years. So fund balance continued to remain stable or increase. However, in fiscal year 23, the district did have an ending fund balance of about 9.2 million, which is a decrease of about 17.6 million from fiscal year 22. As mentioned on previous slides, this is primarily driven by the increase in expenditures in those instruction and support services. Looking at fund balance from a different angle, this slide shows the general fund balance as a percentage of expenditures for the last 5 years as well. And it compares it to the statewide average exclusive of Detroit schools. So when we break this apart for the district, you are at about 6.2% for fiscal year 23, which is lower than the statewide average of about 20%. The district is below the state average, but overall, many districts have experienced increased fund balance, which has pulled that overall average up. And just given the uncertainty with COVID-19 funding winding down, at least from the federal funds perspective, and also uncertainty in the economy at this time. That has driven reserves of fund balance as well. All right, so at this time, I'm happy to field any questions, and I appreciate your time and attention.
Thank you,
Stacy.
Stacy.
Questions? Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you all.
That concludes the recognitions and presentations portion. We are now at 157.24, citizens' comments. This portion is reserved for persons wishing to address the board on items which appear on tonight's agenda. Is there anybody that would like to address the board on an agenda item at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda, 158.24. Is there a motion on consent?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Albrecht, support by Luana. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please, Mel.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. Dr. Weaver?
No.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. Abney Mitchell?
Yes.
President Cox?
Yes.
Okay, so is it 5? 5-1. Yep, 5-1.
Okay, 159.24, Board of Education Committee reports. Ms. May is not here this evening. Mr. Neal, you have it? Thank
I
you.
do have it.
Mr. Neal, if you would please give the committee report from Finance.
Sure. The Finance Committee did meet. We met October 12th at 4:30 via Zoom platform. As you just heard, the audit, we also had Plant Moran share that audit with us at the Finance Committee meeting. Ms. Polakevich shared quotes for purchases of additional materials to support the Amplify Science program and for trailers for the marching bands. Mr. Spizak presented information regarding the liquidation of surplus items, also playground installation and bond renovations. Mr. Dignan updated the committee regarding easement at the dog park that we have here nearby. We had to negotiate easement with City of Westland. Ms. Campbell shared both the investment report and check register. Mr. Dignan and committee members shared closing comments, and the meeting was adjourned at 5:35. Next meeting to occur November 9th at 4:30 via Zoom. And that's the end of the report.
Thank you, Chief Neal. Number 2 is the Marshall Committee report. Mr. Albrecht?
The Marshall Committee meeting took place on October 10th, 2023. In attendance were myself, Ms. Kimberly May, Mr. Neal, Dr. Dignan, Tony Spizak, Bill Weinrop from TMP, and Doug Underwood from McCarthy Smith. The committee discussed its role in representing the board during meetings about the property known as Marshall. The administration presented support for demolishing the building on Bayview Street rather than maintaining it as an empty facility. Included in the information were costs of maintaining the property with an empty structure, original bond costs to enhance the property as a middle school, history of choosing the property as the one to be closed rather than improve it, a timeline for demolishing the building, and utilizing bond resources for demolition. It was also stated there are no plans at this time to market the property. Mr. Neal commented that he supports the administration's desire to demolish the building rather than maintain it, as elementary schools could utilize cost savings for improvements to those facilities. Ms. May also indicated support for demolition of the facility and sharing the process for the decision. Mr. Albrecht likewise indicated his support for demolition. It was further discussed that the whole of the board would be required to approve any and all contracts related to the demolition of the facility at a time when that would be presented to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Albrecht, and thank you and your committee for your work on this. Next item on our agenda is a review and approval of business, service, and finance items. Julie Campbell. Ms. Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first item that I have for the recommendation to the board is the purchase of 2 trailers to transport high school marching band equipment. The 2 trailers will not exceed $19,538, and if approved, this purchase will be charged to the ESSER 3 funds.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Albrecht,
Support.
support by Dr. Weaver. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please, Mel.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. Abby Mitchell? Dr. Weaver?
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. Mr. Neal?
Yes.
President Cox?
Yes.
Let the record show 6-0. Motion carries.
Thank you. Julie?
Thank you. The next item that I have for the recommendation to the board is the approval of bid pack number 13 for the Graham, Taft Galloway, Walker Winter, and Wildwood Elementary Schools. The total of this bid pack is $1,284,500 and will be charged to ESSER 3 funds if the board so approves.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Albrecht,
Support.
support by Neal. Discussion? Roll call vote?
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. Dr. Weaver?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. Abby Mitchell?
Yes.
President Cox?
Yes.
Let the record show 6-0. Motion carries.
Thank you. Excuse me. The third item that I have for recommendation to the board is to approve bid pack number 14, also for Graham, Taft Galloway, Walker Winter, and Wildwood Elementary Schools. And this total award is for $12,666,507 and will be charged in part to the bond fund for $9.6 million, to ESSER 3 funds for about $2.4 million, and the sinking fund for $650,000.
Is there a motion?
Question.
Well, let's hear a motion first and support.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Neal, support by Luana. Dr. Weaver.
Why are these monies not taken out of the bond fund in entirety?
I would like to defer to Mr. Spisak, who brought these to the Finance Committee.
Good evening, Mr. Spisak.
Good afternoon, it's a packed house. To answer your question, Dr. Weaver, the bond was originally for $159 million. After COVID, we saw an increase between 35% and 45% in supplies and material and labor. We have used ESSER funds to offset that, and we've used sinking funds to offset that so that we can give the taxpayers what they voted on in the original bond.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Spisak, will you tell me what the time frame is of, you're going to put the bid packet out if it's approved tonight? What are you looking at in terms of time?
So we will actually begin work this winter on the playgrounds and on the gym additions at all 3 buildings. So February, March, depending on the frost.
Thank you. Further discussion? Did you have something to say, Luana?
No.
Mel? Roll call vote, please.
Dr. Weaver?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Ms. Abby Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. President Cox?
Yes.
Let the record show 6-0. Motion carries.
Thank you. Ms. Campbell.
Thank you. And the next item I have for recommendation to the board tonight is the approval to liquidate district surplus equipment. The equipment was shown at the Finance Committee meeting and is listed in your board pack, and any proceeds from this sale will be returned to the general fund.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
By Mr. Albrecht, support.
Support.
Mr. Neal, is there discussion? Roll call vote, please, Mel.
Ms. Abby Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Dr. Weaver?
Yes.
President Cox?
Yes.
6-0. Motion carries.
Thank you. And the next item that I have is the recommendation to the board to approve the Westland Dog Park property line transfer. And as presented in a previous presentation, the dog park was built a little bit on our property in error, and in order to relieve the district of any liability from that dog park, we are doing a title transfer for that piece of property, and all the fees, including attorney fees, will be paid for by the city.
We're gonna close the barn after the horse escaped. Is there a motion? Motion by Luana, support by Dr. Weaver. Any discussion? Mel?
Dr. Weaver,
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Mr. Neal,
Yes.
Ms. Abney Mitchell. Yes. Hines, yes. President Cox,
Yes.
6-0, motion carries.
And my final item for the recommendation of the board tonight is to approve myself as director and business manager Katie Brischke as alternative director to the Maisel Joint Risk Management Trust, which is our insurance pool for property casualty liability.
You're gonna be famous. Is there a motion?
Make a motion.
Ms. Abney Mitchell, support by Mr. Albrecht. Discussion? Mel?
Ms. Abney Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. Mr. Neal,
Yes.
Dr. Weaver.
Yes.
President Cox.
Yes.
Let the record show 6-0, motion carries.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda, 161.21, is a review and approval of human resource items. Dr. O'Feeling.
Oh, thank you, President Cox. It is my pleasure to recommend Ann Kennel as our next Director of Special Education. Ann comes to us with a Bachelor's of Science from Penn State in elementary education, a Master's in Special Education from McDaniel College, an Ed Specialist in Ed Leadership from Madonna University, and she's in the process of completing her doctorate from Indiana Wesleyan University. She also has certification with a Professional Administrator Certificate and Professional Education Certificate in Cognitive Impairment, Elementary K-5 in all subjects, and physical or other health impairments. Ann comes to us with experience from South Williams School District as a speech language support teacher, a supplement learning teacher, and she also worked for us in Wayne Westland as a cross-categorical teacher. Most recently, she's been in Livonia as a center resource room teacher and a teacher consultant. And at this time, I'd like to recommend Ann as our next Director of Special Education.
Thank you, Dr. O'Feely. Is there a motion?
Make a motion.
Ms. Abney Mitchell,
Support.
support by Dr. Weaver. Discussion? Roll call vote?
Ms. Hines, yes. Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Ms. Abney Mitchell.
Yes.
Dr. Weaver.
Yes.
Mr. Neal,
Yes.
President Cox.
Yes.
Let the record show 6-0, motion carries.
Congratulations.
Dr. Dingman and board members of the Board of Education. I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for having the confidence in me to fulfill this role as Director of Special Education for the preschool and elementary levels. I'm very excited and truly honored to work within a community that puts students first and a community that has a high standard for level of success for all students in the district. So again, thank you, and I'm really looking forward to beginning my time here.
Welcome and thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda, 162.24, is the superintendent's report and comments. Dr. Diggin?
Thank you, President Cox. First off, Ann, congratulations on your position. I also want to thank the Edison students that led us in the pledge this evening. Also, thank you to Hamilton and Adams for their presentations. They did a great job. We held this Saturday in Eastern Michigan our NFL flag and cheer. We had a tremendous turnout from our community, so I want to make sure that I acknowledge that. On Friday at the William D. Career Tech Center, Chair Polhanke and Senator Camilleri were there to write a check for $250,000 for our driver's ed program. It'll be split over 2 years. This year, the focus will be on attendance, and next year will be summer internships. We also are excited to announce that we started our annual College and Career Readiness Awareness Week. I want to thank everybody that was involved in the planning and stuff that went into that. Congrats to the John Glenn football team for making the playoffs for the first time in 15 years. Go Rockets! And congratulations to the Wayne Memorial Marching Band that made it in to the state championships at Ford Field. It's the first time in school history that we've qualified for that event, so we're looking forward to it, and we'll be down there to support them on November 4th. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, sir. The next item on our agenda is 163.24, citizens' comments. This is the portion of the meeting reserved for citizens wishing to address the board on any issue at all. Does not have to appear on the agenda. Mel,
All
we have some
right,
people?
I have some names. Please excuse me if I mispronounce them. Okay, so I have another one. It's a Katrina Luzadas. Yes, just come to the middle podium right there.
Hi, come up to the lectern.
She wants to go later. Wants to go later in the order.
Oh, well, you could go later in the order if you want.
Oh,
Sure.
okay. Okay, let me see. It looks like a Macal Bueno head. It's hard to read the signature. Is it M-A-K-A-L-D? Macal? Michaela, I'm sorry, it's kind of hard to see.
Hi, my name is Michaela Brohard. I am a senior at John Glenn High School. I came here to speak tonight because I am very angry at decisions that were made recently within the movement and transfer of Mr. Daly to Wayne. I am aware that this is a permanent decision and it is out of my control, but I believe it was a very rash decision and it was not a correct one for it is in the middle of the semester and I don't know why that is exactly. I feel like that was a very grave mistake for a an educational center that apparently put students first. I don't believe this was a decision that decided to put the students first, especially considering this was labeled as a business decision, so it had nothing to do with students whatsoever, but for money. I also want to discuss the fact that Alex O'Philly also decided not to only transfer Mr. Daly mid-semester, but has also taken the initiative to not hire any more new teachers this school year, even though we're transferring teachers all across the district because we don't have enough teachers. And I think that is a very interesting decision that should be looked at again. I would like to yield the rest of my time to Mr. Daly. Thank you.
For the record, that's Dr. Alex O'Feely. Next person. Mel?
Amanda, is it Bohard?
So I wasn't planning on speaking today, but I was asked to. My daughter is Michaela. She is a 4.1 grade point average student, and she is school of choice for John Glenn High School. We make the choice to send her to John Glenn and not to Canton schools. Why? Because of teachers like Mr. Daly. Mr. Daly not only helped my daughter through a very, very, very rough patch last year that could have took her life, but he's worked with her tremendously this year, writing a college essay that took Western Michigan University 3 days to make a decision to accept her and give her a scholarship. I'm just wondering if you or anyone thought about the students at John Glenn High School or how it would affect them taking a student from them in the middle of a semester, especially when you're not planning on replacing that teacher, what happens to students, the smart students who have him for AP classes and college composition classes? Will their grades slip because now they're not going to have a teacher? They're going to have a substitute who's coming mid-year not even knowing what they're doing, if they're even going to have the classes at all. So yeah, I'm worried about how that'll affect them. What will happen to their grades, and if you guys even thought about that. And I understand it was just to fill in a gap at Wayne, but you guys are just leaving a gap at John Glenn. You say it's a business decision, but your business has nothing to do with the upheaval of students that live at John Glenn. And apparently from the actions shown, John Glenn students don't matter. You guys don't care about your students. Thank you.
I have an Amber Rains. Do we have an Amber Rains in the room?
I am also here to speak on behalf of Mr. Daly. My daughter struggles with social anxiety. Mr. Daly has made her feel very comfortable at school. She gets up every morning, she wants to go to school early to hear his stories before school, whereas before she would have panic attacks in the parking lot and not be able to go into school. This man has helped so many of our students. Why would you take him away? For what? And what, like Amanda said, what is going to happen to our AP students? What's gonna happen to their classroom? Not to mention the emotional effect this is gonna have on clearly several students who count on him for emotional support. You guys preach that you want to help with emotional support and make that an importance in the schools, and then take away one of the most supportive men that our children have. Something needs to be done to reverse the decision and allow him to stay with the students that count on him and need him so very much. Thank you.
Next, we have an Andrew Ambrose. Did I say it correctly? Andrew Ambrose? Okay, next we have a Virginia, is it Shrout?
It's Schroet.
I'm sorry, thank you for
No, you're
helping
fine.
me, because some of the, it's kind of hard to read some of
Yes,
the
I understand.
signatures.
So I'm here to support Mr. Daly. I understand that when there's vacancies, that changes have to be made. But we need to support our students. A change of moving a teacher middle of a semester to fill a vacancy at another school leaves another 100 to 150 kids with a vacancy. So I'm not sure why a movement in the middle of a semester would be called for. In addition, I got this information last night. So as my student, I'm talking to him, we're confused at what's going on. This is a teacher that, okay, I have an 11th grade son, he's not in the AP class, he's just in ELA. He doesn't like ELA, what boy does really? But Mr. Daly has made it that he enjoys going to class. In parent-teacher conferences, he says, my son has taken a leadership role in that class. He helps the other students in his group finish their projects on time. Now, my son is a 4.0 student, but English is not his top priority. Reading books is not his top priority, not unless it's something he's really interested in. But Mr. Daly has made this class where it is interesting for my kid to go to school. He wants to be there. He wants to learn what's going on. I'm concerned at what's going to happen now. I did reach out to Mr. McCullough last night to find out what the next steps were, what they were gonna do for the positions for this vacancy. They're working on it, they don't know. Mr. Daly's last day is at the end of the week. My child has 30 more weeks of school left. So what is going to happen to his grades? Will his 4.0 drop? Will he still be interested? If it's a substitute, what's going to happen? Are they really going to engage the student? So I understand, I work in business, I understand what it's like to have to backfill and fill positions. But you don't take a position, you don't take a teacher who has 100 to 150 kids to move them to an open position and leave those students left with nothing. Thank you.
All right, and we have an Ethan Schroet.
I am also here to speak on behalf of Mr. Daly. My mother just spoke, and everything she said was true and stuff I agreed with. This is surprisingly not the first time I've dealt with a teacher who's had to leave during the semester. Back in 7th grade for science, my teacher had a very serious surgery, and we were left with substitutes for 2/3 of the second semester. And I can tell you from my experience, I learned basically nothing ever since my teacher left. The fact that I was not held back or anything and that I was able to catch up is nothing short of a miracle on my part. And I've not talked to any of my 7th grade classmates from then, so I don't even know if they have, if they're even caught up to now, because I haven't even seen them since. Removing a teacher halfway through a semester makes absolutely no sense to me, even though I'm not in, business or in, I'm not in the school board or how everything runs and everything, so it's not 100%. I'm not 100% familiarized with everything, but I feel like everybody here can agree that making a change halfway through a school year, where now a teacher that we have already gotten to the swing of things with in all of his classes, now getting taken out, leaving from 100 to 150 kids without a teacher, is just not a good decision in the first place. I've been told that there's basically nothing that can be done about changing these actions that have taken him out of John Glenn and moved him to Wayne Memorial, but I feel like whatever we can do, we should do to bring him back to John Glenn to, at the very least, finish the semester. Just so me and my classmates and other people who also have Mr. Daly as a teacher, especially those AP and college classes, has a teacher to at least finish out the semester so they actually learn something. Thank you.
Can I please see a John Ross?
Good evening. My name is John Ross. I'm a high school instructional coach in the district. I'm a member of the WWEA Executive Board. I'm here this evening, like many others, as a show of support for Mr. Dave Daly, a teacher facing a mid-year involuntary transfer. My understanding is that his position at John Glenn is being eliminated, which will disrupt the education of the students who are enrolled in his classes. Mr. Daly also serves as a co-department head for the John Glenn ELA department, and his transfer will undoubtedly impact his colleagues in their departmental work, as well as in their increased class sizes. But I would like to use my time to focus on just one of the many ramifications of Mr. Daly's involuntary transfer, that being that he teaches an advanced placement or AP English class. In my work as an instructional coach, I recently had the opportunity to speak to Mr. Daly about his instruction. At various points throughout the conversation, Mr. Daly referenced his AP class. He spoke of the text his students were reading. He spoke of the discussion prompts they were responding to, and the techniques he was and will be using to engage his students in deep and meaningful student-centered discourse. He spoke about their writing and the intention behind his strategies to bring the students' thoughts to paper. And despite how long it may take to evaluate their work, he spoke with great joy and pride about everything that was taking place in his classroom. I have not yet had the pleasure of visiting Mr. Daly's classroom, but I can tell that great things are happening in there for his students. I know the power of having great experiences in AP classes firsthand. I graduated from Livonia Churchill High School in our neighboring district to the north. During my time there, I completed enough AP coursework to earn 46 college credits before I ever set foot on a college campus. That's the equivalent of 3 semesters, a year and a half of college that I was able to complete for the price of a handful of AP tests. 2 of those tests that I took are connected with courses that my home high school, Wayne Memorial, isn't running this school year. They ran last year, but were not included as this year's schedule was being built because not enough students signed up to take them. Meanwhile, multiple sections of remediation courses, such as Math 180, ran with single-digit enrollments, even though the creators of those programs recommend class sizes of 15 to 20. These decisions establish a pattern that Wayne Westland is not a district that protects AP coursework opportunities for our highest achieving students. The transfer of Mr. Daly, who teaches an AP section, is yet another decision that signals that our district is not for AP scholars like I was in my high school days. It pains me to think that the district that I have made my professional home is becoming one that I would not have attended as a student because the opportunities that I needed to reach my highest potential are disappearing from our classrooms. I recognize that I've focused very narrowly on just one aspect of Mr. Daly's classroom role at John Glenn High School. Teachers who teach AP courses are generally given that opportunity because they are very good at what they do. So while I've focused on Mr. Daly's work with one high-achieving group, his impact undeniably carries through to all of his students. My happiness that Wayne Memorial is gaining a great teacher is overshadowed by my sadness that John Glenn is losing one, after the school year began, after relationships have been built, and after learning routines have been put in place. It is only October. Our organization could have planned better and avoided this disruption to student learning caused by the involuntary mid-semester transfer of a teacher. Thank you, and I yield any of my remaining time to Mr. Daly.
Isabel Davis? Isabel Davis?
Hi, my name is Isabel Davis. I would just like to yield my time to Mr. Daly.
Jolene, is it Tavan? Tram, I'm sorry. Thank you for helping.
Hi, my name is Jolene Tran, and I'm a senior at Glenn. I was a former student of Mr. Daly's last year, and I currently have him now as my college comp teacher. Now, I know I'm just a student. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes or all the reasons of making this decision. I most certainly would have done my research to figure all that out, but given such short notice to the teachers, parents, and students, that wasn't possible for me. That being said, I don't think this was a very good decision at all. Moving Mr. Daly to Wayne is not a beneficial decision for anyone. His remaining 150 students that all love and admire him, as of Monday, will now be without a teacher. Sorry. He teaches 3 different subjects: AP Lang, English 11, and College Comp. And it has been made clear in class that more than half of his class, his biggest College Comp class so far, as he had said early on in the year, was taken because of the teacher, because Mr. Daly. And now we're gonna be without him. Because of this, his workload will now be dumped onto other teachers to take his students and possibly dissolve other electives that students were taking. I mentioned that every single one of his students loved and admired him, and for good reason. Not only is he an exceptional teacher and does his job incredibly well, he cares so much about his students in a way that I've never ever seen before. He cares so much that he's actively working to change and make the education system better, to fix mistakes that you would probably bat an eye at. That kind of passion he has for change is so respectable to me and everyone else. The impact he has had on every one of his students have changed our lives and ways of learning. I have a list of students who have said he's changed their lives by teaching them to be better scholars, motivating us to learn, and keeping us prepared for the SATs. For me personally, he has changed the way that I learn and taught me to be a better writer, and he helped me through the SATs. He was the only one who tried as hard as he did for us, and the effort he put in for us will always stick with me. You guys are the ones in charge. The school board, the head of district, and the head of HR. You work for a school district, meaning your main priority should be about children's education. But this decision was not to better our education, it was about money. When we as students come to you to speak about what helps us with our learning, are you willing to actually listen? He said he'd be willing to work part-time to stay with his students, and that's how dedicated he is to us. But that was shut down. So if it's not about our education or money, what else is there? And I understand that there was a gap at Wayne, but now there's going to be a gap at Glenn. The higher-ups or those working in HR don't understand how this school runs or how his classroom runs through the perspective of the ones being taught. You don't understand the impact he has made on this school and our lives or how much this transfer will affect us. But do you care? Students, parents, and teachers do. Everyone in this room does, and I know Mr. Daly does. He was more than a teacher to all of us. This petition has names of 143 students at Glenn that we were able to gather on short notice in about 5 hours. Every single name on here was a student that didn't even have to think about the ways that he has changed our lives. Thank you.
All right, can I have Dave Daly come to the podium?
It's been a really hard day. President Cox, board members, Superintendent Dr. Dignan, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. A couple of my students and colleagues have also come out here to support me, and I want to thank you all for doing that. Showing out. A couple things. I began teaching to make a difference in the lives of others. That's what I do. I chose this profession because of the injustices I saw firsthand as the greatest talents in my school growing up were being wasted, casted off, and ignored. So these badges I'm wearing tonight, they each represent training in student advocacy. Each one was an extended invitation that I received because I never went into education for myself or to make more money. I went into education to make sure that students do not get lost, forgotten, or discarded into the widening gaps caused by adults who refuse to see they are real people here. Thursday night, I received a phone call from Mr. O'Feely, for whom I had many questions about my involuntary transfer. What will I be teaching? What will happen to my students? Questions he could not answer. I explained that the last one was one of the most important, and that these are questions I would be faced with when I made the announcement to my students. And he commended me for that and expressed that these were fiscal decisions. I explained to him how well my classes were going, how unique my schedule was, how important the work I've been doing to pilot a new grading system for the entire high school English department at both schools. I explained this, that the disruption this would cause, the importance of consistency, the impact of trauma my students would endure. He said he understood that. I asked if I could finish the work, the assignments I accepted to teach these courses to my students at John Glenn until the end of the semester. That will not work, is what I heard. These are fiscal decisions. I offered to reduce my salary to 0.6 to stay at Glenn to finish my work here. No. I asked if these business decisions are being elevated above what's best for students. Yes, he replied. Yes. Yes. Man, just think about that. I became a teacher, as I said, to advocate for students. And before I came here, I watched as a charter school who pushed teachers out and even fired them for asking for more. They too ran a school like a business. Teachers were another commodity, something purchased, then used, discarded, and replaced. I have a strict code of ethics. It forces me to measure the harm or potential harm of my decisions. Do no harm is my goal. No harm. That's my goal. In order to advocate better for my students, I organized the first charter school in the state of Michigan. I found in the union a virtually unlimited number of training modules that taught me how to advocate for the education of my students. None of my advocacy has ever been about the business of Dave Daly. And that is why, even in the worst of working environments, I have always finished what I start with students. I never leave a district in the middle of a semester, let alone a year. But if Wayne Westland would rather put the business of education above the lives of our students, the well-being of our community, they are sending a message, several messages. Business before students. Solutions are not wanted. Students are dollars. Teachers are expendable. I am not here tonight because I do not think that this is the message my colleagues, my administration, or even this whole school board really wants or believes, for that matter. I don't think that any of you up there really believe those messages. I don't think that's it. I don't. I'm just here to shine this light on someone or some group who would seek to charterize our public school, rather than recognize the human potential and irreversible harm that's done when people put when we put profits over people. Sorry. This decision is not about who I'll be teaching or where. It's not teacher placement I'm concerned about. I'm here because of student displacement. Ignoring the high-quality instruction we can provide, all because of a few dollars and cents with complete disregard of common sense. Bad actors do not have the right or deserve the privilege to determine the opportunities of literally hundreds of students. They don't. They should go find refuge in charter schools, not my public. Thank you.
Next, we have Don Harris.
Good evening. I also want to talk about involuntary transfers. We all know it is within the law, but how Wayne Westland applies it is inconsistent. It does not follow the law. There's no clear process. It's very disruptive to our district. There's no clear timeline or consistency in applying it. I'm sure you all remember back in February 23, we had a gym teacher up here who was involuntarily transferred. He had come back from FMLA after 8 weeks. When he came back, he was told he's going to be involuntarily transferred from John Glenn over to Franklin to replace a teacher who's been out for 4 weeks. It's timeline and processes is what I'm trying to get at, right? There were other involuntary transfers. They followed a procedure that was easily followed, lack of seniority. This year at Graham, you had a media teacher who was moved from Graham over to another building. what happens with media teacher. She's in, they put them in groups. You have art, music, PE, life skills, and media. The group follows a building. So the ones at, where she was at Graham, they broke up her, moved her away from the other 4 teachers, and they allowed another teacher to take her position, which would have been fine, except this person was a part-time teacher. Said she was gonna be full-time. They allowed her to choose, she chose, and then now she's part-time. So again, timeline and processes is what we're having a problem here with this district, and we need to have something down so at least people know what is happening in this district in regards to transfers. Yes, it's within the law, but how we're doing it, it's not working right. Again, over at Graham, there was a teacher that she applied for an ASD coach position to help out the school psychologists who were doing tests. This was a new allocation. She applied, she was awarded that position, but because the district had another new allocation, an ASD center-based, they couldn't fill that spot, so they plucked this teacher and put her in ASD center-based and said, all right, once we can find somebody, then we'll put you back over this other position. So what that did then is now you have a school psychologist who's doing a lot more work than she could possibly do because that position was taken away. That's 3 positions that are hurt here. The reality is there are no ASD positions. It's hard to fill, whether you're in Garden City or Wayne Westland or Plymouth, wherever, all right? If they never had moved that teacher, you would have 2/3 of those 3 positions that have been filled. Not causing, well, of course you're gonna have an issue because you don't have the center base filled, but now we have 3 positions that aren't, I would say, functioning correctly. Moving on, recently there was a fifth grade teacher at Hicks who had resigned. And so the district, through their lack of transparency here in their process, decided that they're gonna pull a teacher, a 4th grade teacher from Graham and go over and place her at Hicks. Said all the numbers, we scoured the district, we looked at the numbers, she was the lowest with 2 class sizes, then she was the lowest one in that building for seniority. We're gonna pluck that teacher out, put her here at Hicks for 5th grade. All right, that would have been fine. But what it did then is now you have a hole in 4th grade, you have to dissolve, they were told to dissolve one of the 5th grade classes over at Graham, and those kids from that one that was dissolved now go into this other 2 classes, thereby affecting those 2 5th grade teachers. The one 5th grade who was dissolved now goes to 4th grade. So Wayne Westland moved a teacher from Graham over to Hicks to replace that one teacher, and it affected 3 other teachers in Graham. Not only that, the teacher who left was, the district had listed as she's leaving on 10/13/2023. They made this position to move the teacher over there on 10/9. Again, timelines aren't working out. You had a teacher who was gone for 8 weeks, came back, and they replaced him with a teacher, or had him move over to another place where a teacher was out 4 weeks. Here, a teacher hasn't even left yet, and they transferred. I mean, it seems like this list just keeps going on. We have Dave Daly here, who we find out in his case that the teacher that he's replacing is a teacher who was out on FMLA, and I believe she resigned. So there was a long-term sub there, I believe. And so I don't know why that we would need to pull Dave Daly from John Glenn into another position. Granted, that teacher may have been out on maternity, but there was still a long-term sub there. Again, timeline and processes, we can't follow what's going on. You also have a resource room teacher again. This year started out being a temporary AP over at Franklin. All right, thought she wanted to try out being an administrator. She got to the point where she said, I don't want to do this anymore. I'll give you till October 1st. I'm going to go back to resource room. Well, she thought the reaction was punitive because what they said is, well, we're not giving you a resource room. What we're going to do is we're going to put you over at ASD local classroom because you have these certs. Well, she didn't want to go to there. There was no process for her understanding this. She, again, thought it was punitive. So she goes over to, a 20-year teacher goes over to Schweitzer, and she's been there, I believe, since October 1st, but I believe after tomorrow night's board meeting at a local district, another neighboring district, she'll be hired and our 20-year veteran will be gone out of this district. So again, we're losing teachers, and I'm worried as the WW teacher president, I'm worried about our staff leaving. We have some good people here, and they're now starting to leave. So finishing up, there does not seem to be a process. The timelines for all these transfers are different. There does not seem to be any consistency with the transfers, and we'll continue to lose our valued staff. I'm worried now about the Graham, ASD, and psychologists that I don't know if they're going to stay or not. I think we need to have some sort of process. Thank you.
Next, we have a Mariah, is it Fant? Fant.
Hello, my name is Mariah Fant, and I am a senior at John Glenn High School. I've been here once before to talk about the theater program. Unfortunately, I'm here to talk about a more emotional and sad cause. I have Mr. Daly's second hour for College Comm. I had him last year for English 11. I went through a really rough time last fall, and there was a lot of emotional stuff. There was a lot of deep stuff. You guys have taken away 3 out of 4 of my comfort teachers that I would go to. Miss Blay, Mr. Wood, and now Mr. Daly. How many more is it going to be? This is not fair. It is not fair to us students. It is not fair to the other staff members, and something needs to change. How many more teachers is it going to take until I don't want to go to John Glenn anymore? How many more times is it going to take? He told all of his classes today that he was leaving. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was just a big joke, because we share jokes all the time. And I was like, oh, this is just a big joke. It was not. I cried. I stopped the whole hour. I went home and cried even more. Last show, Addams Family and Murder on the 518, he came with his wife and supported us. We have a thing called Stargrams, which is where you can pay $1 and you can write a letter or a note to any of your actors on stage or whatever. I went home and looked at his today. It is soaked in tears. Something has to change. Something has to change. This isn't okay anymore. It's not fair to us. It is not fair to his students, to any John Glenn member that is. It is not fair to the rest, to the staff. It's not fair to John Glenn as a whole. And it's just something has to change. This can't keep going on. How many more teachers is it going to take until something actually gets resolved? How many more times is it going to take? And I'm sorry, I keep repeating myself, but something has to change. This can't keep happening. This cannot keep happening. It's to the point where students don't want to come to school because their favorite teachers, the people that they look up to daily, because maybe they don't have those family members at home that support them. Maybe they don't have that support system. But their school, their teachers, their favorite teachers are the ones that believe in them. And you are taking that away. I have lost three of my biggest supporters in my life. I do not want any more I don't want any more to leave. Thank you.
Next, we have Tanya Karpinski.
Good evening.
I too, unfortunately, feel like as the Michigan Education Association representative servicing Wayne Westland and advocating on behalf of the Michigan Education Association employees in this district, that this has unfortunately become a redundant process in the district of Wayne Westland. 3 years ago, we picketed in front of 2 elementary schools because the district decided to take the law that was currently within their purview and completely upset 2 elementary school staffings by doing all kinds of movements for the staff in those buildings. 6 out of 9 teachers were impacted in one building and 5 in another. We lost several of those teachers that left the district after that because they were either at retirement age and said enough is enough, or they moved on to districts where they felt they had a sense of security and value. As Don Harris said, in February, we were here again for the involuntary transfer out of the middle of nowhere with no rhyme or reason because it did not coordinate with the beginning or end of a school year or the beginning or ending of a semester, but it was his gift back after returning from a medical leave that he would not finish his final year of teaching in the position and the building where he was. Now tonight, I'm here yet again with another teacher that out of the middle of nowhere, I received a call last week. Not only is Mr. Daly a great advocate on behalf of his students, he has been a great advocate on behalf of all union members because Mr. Daly stands for what is just and what is right. And as you have heard here tonight, this is not right. This is not just. I am so thankful that Governor Whitmer in July signed into law the ability for us to bargain over teacher placement. Because absolutely what has taken place here over the past 3 years is not what is in anyone's best interest. In reviewing some